Who's that? Australia's playing.
But they're not allowed to play the grand final.
No, Australia's. Water on the swamp. The cricket to the bar. That's all the sun the major. Australia in the grand final. Okay.
So yeah, the grand finals will be like this week.
Never got in the Australian side.
And then I've got all three teams playing for the final.
It's very close, isn't
That
it?
was even better. Thank you.
No worries,
Bills are done. Ellie's done. She was in there. We came home because from the time we got the cab, we looked up the line.
simple truth about the love she brings to me. Where do I start? With her first hello, she gave a meaning to this empty world of mine. There'll never be another love, another time. She came into my life and made the living fine. She fills my heart. She fills my heart with very special things, with angel songs, with wild imaginings. She fills my soul with so much love that anywhere I go, I'm never lonely with her along. Who could be lonely? I reach for her hand, it's always there. How long does it last? Can love be measured by the hours in a day? I have no answers now, but this much I can say. I know I'll need her till the stars all burn away, and she'll be there. How long does it last? Can love be measured by the hours in a day? I have no answers now, but this much I can say. I know I'll need her till the stars all burn away, and she'll be there.
Good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon, Jindera people. You've probably got a beautiful, beautiful late winter's afternoon up your end of the world, being up in the mighty Murray. Ken, over in Western Australia, and to anybody else who is out there being part of our tribute to Erin. Welcome. And I hope that you eventually may get to see some of the photos that Denise has chosen for Mum's tribute. The elegance that is shown in these photos is just amazing. On the front cover, on the back cover, just beautiful. And with that forever smile. We gather today to mourn the passing of Erin Ryan. We gather to say our final farewells. We gather to pay a loving tribute to Erin's long, long life of 97 years. And truly, how do you pay tribute to a life of 97 years in the time that we have today? If we were here this time tomorrow, we'd want a break, but if we were here this time tomorrow, it still wouldn't cover everything. But I think, Denise, you have put together such a wondrous tribute to Mum. And I want to say at the outset that if we could bottle Erin's truly inspiring view of her world, then our world would be a much better place. Yes, there is sadness. We no longer have the physical presence of Erin in our lives, but we all say, surely that today is a celebration of a most wondrous life. And I remarked to myself, almost thinking out aloud, when I wrote that the other day, I put, is it too flowery? But it's not really, not at all. You see, today we give thanks for the blessing of having had Erin in our lives for all of these years. This woman, courageous and resilient, everyone always said an amazing lady, and you've only got to look at what the staff from Paynesville have written on little whiteboard there as they came in to say good day to Erin each morning. They've outdone each other in glowing compliments. It's just beautiful to see. People made Erin smile. I mean, who smiles when they're going away on an ambulance trolley, waving? It's almost a classic for Wish Me Luck as you're waving goodbye. She is the most amazing woman, and I've never ever met her. But from what Denise has said, I stand in awe. She just loved people. She was supremely elegant. That's the way I put it. Supremely elegant. And once Erin got to know you, she was outgoing. She charmed the socks off people. And she was always beautifully dressed. Peter actually called Erin the princess, Pete. The princess. And for those of you at Ginger, Peter's nodding. She was a vain lady, you lot. She was very vain, and why not, I say, because on the occasion of her having, and beat it, a melanoma, it had to be covered. None of this showing off the wound. It had to be covered. She loved Cafe 3880, and that's where you're going for a cuppa after we finish here. And I know because I've been down there several times for, if not a coffee and a cake, meals, and those people there are just wondrous. She loved pelicans. Meetown was a favourite spot for chasing pelicans. There's two sides to this lady. Two sides. They're both good, both very good. The one side was the lady that was somewhat reserved, lacking in confidence. And that was a fact. It wasn't a pretend. She was lacking in confidence, but when she stepped into work mode, Erin was PR plus. It was almost like we say about footballers, white line fever. Erin had that part to her nature where she could slip into work focus and work mode and do it just beautifully. Erin Ryan saw people as important. I said earlier that she loved people. She saw us all as important. And Denise and I both agreed that people recognised this in this lady. Now, I've had the privilege to read some of Erin's notes, and I've got to give these back to you, too, Denise. Her reflections on her life and her memories of her experiences. Oh boy, seriously. Denise is going to share them with us later on. And so is Megs. So is Gareth. So I just say, bring back your favourite memory of this lady and allow those memories to bring a smile. Because I am confident that we can say that this is what Erin would want, a smile. Now, I've used this deliberately. Nisi, your turn. Come on, Denise.
You may be wondering about the Forget-Me-Nots and the poem. I remember all of my life Mum reading poetry to me. This particular one, she asked if I could print it out for 10, 12 years ago, and I did, and I found it. She still had the copy in her belongings. Hopefully you've all picked up a packet of Forget-Me-Not seeds. I definitely have quite a few because I'll be doing it for a few years. I understand they're not perennials, but I can probably make them die faster than most things. So I'm going to read you the poem because this is, I don't know how many she taught me, but this was one. When to the flowers so beautiful the father gave a name, back came a little blue-eyed one, all too timidly it came. And standing at its father's feet and gazing in his face, it said in low and trembling tones, and with a modest grace, "Dear God, the name they gave us me, alas, I have forgot." The father kindly looked him down and said, "Forget me not." And I could probably recite so many more, yeah, and it was Wordsworth, and it was Henry Lawson, and it was, you name it, Mum would read it to me and off we went. So I'm going to read you the eulogy. It expands quite considerably on what you have in the booklet. And I'm going to commence by saying, as Peter already has, you can't condense 97 years in 5 minutes. So my apologies, but Mum is being given all the time she should. Erin Frances Ryan was born in Belgrade, Victoria on the 23rd of January 1925 to parents Erin, known as Reenie, and Frances, known as Frank, Reeves. She was the middle child with one older brother, Laurie, and one younger, Ernie, Bernard, and both are deceased. Frank, her father, was a mounted police officer, and over Erin's early years they moved to wherever their father's placements took them. Over her primary and secondary years, Erin attended school in Lindenow, Bairnsdale, and then by correspondence from Can River. She took her first communion at St Mary's Catholic Church in Bairnsdale. The only memory of St Mary's which she related to me, other than the magnificent ceiling, which her parents had convinced her was done by Michelangelo, was being made to wear a smelly, too large beret, excuse me, when she once left her hat at home. As Mum told me, the nun pulled the beret down roughly below Mum's ears and said, "Reeves, you won't forget to bring your hat again." She never did. Mum spoke of her memories of going out with her father as he travelled around the area. One of the trips was when she was a youngster, was to the Lake Tyers Aboriginal settlement, where it was my grandfather's role to check all was okay from a law perspective. He left Mum with a group of young Aboriginal children whilst he went off to talk with the Aboriginal elders. When he returned, he found that Mum had grouped them all together into a circle and was teaching them to sing. No doubt she might need teaching some poetry too. Unfortunately, it appears that the Reeves family home was not a really happy one, and both her brothers left to go in forces or to begin their working lives and moved away from the area. Mum wanted to join the services as war had commenced. She asked her father to allow her to join despite not being old enough. He agreed. And although not the appropriate age, he signed the enlistment form and recorded her birth date as being 1924, rather than the correct date of 1925. She became 18 years old rather than having just turned 17. She joined on the 15th of April 1941 and was discharged on the 31st of July 1945. It was whilst she was in the Air Force she met our father, Jim Rawlings, and married him on the 18th of August 1945. The 18th of August continued to be an extraordinarily significant day for Mum for many, many years. Their first child, Ken, was born on the 1st of July 1946, and I came along on the 14th of May 1949. Unfortunately, Dad found love elsewhere and left when I was 6 weeks old. They had been living in Warragul, Trafalgar area in a house associated with the bus company Dad had formed with a mate. So Mum had to find other accommodation and a means of income. She took on housekeeping for a range of people and after a year or so, a woman in one of the families told Mum that she was too good for that type of work. She loaned her some appropriate clothes and sent her off for an interview with TAA. Those of you who remember, it was an airline. She got the job as a ground hostess. She was one of the first faces you saw when she entered the Franklin Street Melbourne office. She greeted people with what my brother and I called her TAA smile. They would walk towards her and suddenly she was on show. That's what we called her. She moved to Melbourne having made the difficult decision that Ken, who was almost 5, would go to live in Dandenong with her mother and father-in-law and start school the following year. She rented rooms from a woman who also had a child and arranged for me to be cared for while she worked. This was okay for around a year or so, but the other child in the household took a loving to bashing me when no one was looking. So I also was sent to live with our paternal grandparents. For all the years we were there, and there were many, she covered every expense, and her mother-in-law kept a list of every expense, even down to shoelaces. Mum worked at TAA for almost 15 years, and when I was 13 and Ken 16, our nana became ill and hospitalised. And Mum came to live in the house to look after us and the 2 boarders, and she was still continuing to work in Melbourne from Dandenong. She made the long train trip to work to cover whatever shift she was working. And we later moved into a flat in Dandenong until Ken left school and got a job in Melbourne, and we moved to Malvern, and I continued to make the trip to Dandenong to finish my high school. Mum had by then left TAA, and she became the first ever female public relations manager for a hotel group, Federal Hotels, where one of her roles became managing the opening of the West Point Casino in Hobart. I remember clearly the day she got the Federal Hotel Group job. She ran our high school in Dandenong, and the principal passed on the news. It was life-changing. Her husband, our father, had never supported her or us, and I've written we were quite impoverished. We were poor. I recall one morning standing in the kitchen of a flat we had and she'd rented for all of us. We hadn't any table or chairs, so as we stood in the kitchen with our bowls or our plates of toast, Mum decided to be the hostess, and she decided it was a cocktail party, and she kept asking us to mingle. She was headhunted by the Commodore Hotel Motel Group again in the role of Public Relations Manager, and it was a national role. And Ken and I had both left home. Ken had moved to Perth and I had married. Mum was provided by Commodore with accommodation in Collins Street, Melbourne, the Toorak end, they termed it. I recall a newspaper article about she and only one other person who were living in apartments or penthouses in Melbourne. It was a real rarity back then to be living in that sort of circumstance. It was whilst Mum was working there she met Kevin Ryan, a hotelier. They formed a travel company together, married, and went on to manage the Mitchelton Winery Complex. They then purchased a motel in Seymour, the Wattle, and became well known for their hospitality and particularly their care of servicemen and women in transit between postings. Kevin had, in years gone by, told Mum that when he retired he wanted to purchase a yacht to live on and sail the Australian coast. It was in the 1980s this dream became a reality when, after selling the motel, they purchased Wandjina, a 45-foot ketch, and spent 13 or 14 years of sailing. They were in their 60s. Kevin was an experienced sailor. He'd actually done the Sydney to Hobarts. Mum was a pure novice. She was informed by Kevin that if she became seasick, he would throw her overboard with a bucket of blood. She never did get seasick. They met and made lifelong friends during their travels, sailing mostly around the Queensland and Northern Territory waters with a special love of Torres Strait sea sirens. They bought a home later in Harvey Bay and were there for almost 10 years. Kevin entered a nursing home and passed away there, and in 2009, Mum moved to Albury to be closer to me. She lived in Albury until 2013. She had joined Progress, returned services, and made a lot of friends. When my husband passed away in 2012, Mum purchased a unit in Gindra, which is where I was living, and she soon became known for her personality, her immaculate presentation, and her general love of life. We celebrated her 90th birthday in style, with Mum insisting she needed both an afternoon tea party and a glamour evening celebration. Both were great and saw people travel from far and wide to attend, including the shop assistants from Jacqueline Eve, where she went regularly, and the Gindra op shop, where she had worked occasionally, together with several friends who came from Queensland. I recall sitting at that table with my now daughter-in-law and making invitations, and they had to have a certain amount of pearls attached to them, fake pearls. When it became time after I had retired, Peter, my new husband, and I began talking about the next stage of our lives, and Mum was all in for a move to Paynesville, back to the region where she'd undertaken most of her schooling and where she'd served in World War II. A year or so earlier, she had moved in with Peter and I in Gindra, so we began together to select a style of home which would suit all three of us, places where we could get away from each other. We moved to Paynesville in September 2020 and settled into our neighbourhood well. Mum, of course, was included in the social events that COVID allowed us to take part in. It never ceased to amaze us, particularly Peter, that whatever she had been doing during the afternoon, right on the dot of 5 o'clock, wine o'clock, the door would open and of course a wine needed to be poured for both of us. Melanomas had presented themselves to Mum in October 2019, and Peter Mack took over their management. She faced the melanomas head on, as she had everything in her life, and we travelled to Melbourne many, many times. She managed over the last 2.5 years, aged 95 onwards, to handle 2 surgeries and 3 radiation treatments, with all of the travelling that these entailed. Her most recent radiation treatment was in January this year. Her first treatment was in December 18th, 2019. Mum decided it was time for a nursing home out of the blue in April last year. She, of course, became much loved at the Opal Gardens, Paynesville, and delighted in getting dressed up for special celebrations, taking off several of the best dressed prizes. She enjoyed her final years at the Opal Paynesville Gardens, and I frequently took her out for coffee, to visit the Pelicans, for haircuts, to have her nails done, etc. She came home regularly to spend the weekend or a night and looked forward to catching up with Peter, who'd become Sonny Boy, and our dog Ruby, who on one occasion actually visited her at the nursing home. She became loved by many staff, and I must thank them all for what they did for her. Mum had an extensive wardrobe, and it was my role to change it over regularly. Several of her carers enjoyed selecting her clothes for the day and listening also to her tales of sailing. Lots of meaningful moments, lots of massive memories of this woman who at 24 years of age in the 1940s became the sole parent of 2 very young children and did what was the best she could to come up and raise them, and also became an example of an amazing excellence in her chosen field to so many in the travel industry and beyond. Mum chose that photo. She said she wanted to wave goodbye to people. She is now. Our Mum, Erin Ryan, loved books, chocolates, friends, fashion, movies, wine, just about everything really, including Ken and I and our spouses, Ros and Peter. Her grandchildren, Vanessa, Troy, Emily, Kylie, Gareth and Donovan. And their spouses, Cheryl and Louisa and Roger. She loved also her great-grandchildren, Jake, Josh and Jessica, and Connor, and she was Lola to my grandchildren, Kyle and Alida, and she had one great-great-grandchild, Evie. Our beautiful, strong, inspirational mum passed away on the 10th of August. She was so easy to respect, enjoy the company of, and to love, and I'm sure there were many people who felt that love. Thank you very much.
Even though we're a small group, I think it's Ginger of people, you might offer a clap as well, because it takes a lot of courage to stand up in a state of emotion. Well done, Denise, that was beautiful. Sunny boy, huh?
Yep.
Well done, Ben. Time just to sit back for a little while, and we're going to turn the lights down and we're going to watch a beautiful photo presentation of Erin's life with, well, some interesting songs. In My Life by the Beatles and Bette Midler, as time goes by. And what's the last one, Denise? I haven't noted it down. It doesn't matter, But you've got some beautiful memories being shown.
Oh, to Build a Dream.
Build a Dream.
Yeah.
Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong,
Louis
yes,
Armstrong.
yes.
And Mum heard all of these songs and heard a eulogy.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more. There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better, and some have gone, and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings, as time goes by. Moonlight and love songs never out of date. Hearts full of passion, jealousy and hate. Woman needs man, and man must have his mate. That no one can deny. It's still the same old story, a fight for love and glory, a case of do or die. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes by. It's still the same old story, a fight for love and glory, a case of do or die. The world goes.
Give me a kiss that will dream on, and my imagination will try to bump that kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this, a kiss to build a dream on. Give me a kiss before you leave me, and my imagination will feed my hungry heart. Leave me one thing before we part, a kiss to build a dream on. When I'm alone with my fancies, I'll be with you, living romances. Making believe they're true. Oh, give me your lips for just a moment, and my imagination will make that moment live. Give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. when I'm alone with my fancies. I'll be with you, weaving romances, making believe they're true. Oh, give me lips for just a moment, and my imagination will make that moment live. Oh, give me what you will love to give. I'll kiss the pills I dream of.
That last song by Louis was just as smooth as silk. It just suited your mum perfectly, niece, I reckon. Oh, that was beautiful. It really was. The one shot that I remember strongly was the one on the catch with the rainbow spinnaker. Oh, that's about, we use the modern terms, that's about as cool as you can get, I reckon. And I reckon they were barramundi.
Oh, yes.
Mum was holding. Oh, curry barramundi, grilled barramundi, stewed barramundi. Oh, just beautiful. Now I'm just talking for a little bit because I think Kelly's going to get something organised. Well, just hang on. Jindera folks up there, I hope you enjoyed that that walk down memory lane, that beautiful walk down memory lane. I understand that you're going to stay on at the hub after our tribute to Erin is at an end and grab a cuppa and have something to eat, and I hope you're enjoying, which sounds funny at a funeral, but I hope you're enjoying being part of this. Now, Gareth's message. Here you go, Gareth, if you're watching out on the ether. Thanks, Gal. Lights.
Hi everybody. Louisa, Kyle, Alita and I would like to offer our deepest sympathy to Mum, Peter, Kylie and Donovan, and to all of Nan's friends. I think that it's pretty much a universally understood feeling that when a grandkid is told that they're going to visit Nan, that there's a great feeling of glee and anticipation. Many a school holiday found us there. My brother, sister and I stretched out with blankets and pillows, with the rear seat fell down in the back of the Holden station wagon. For some reason, departure always had to be before sunrise, but maybe the parents were excited too. The road trip felt like an eternity, but really it was only a few hours long. My Nan lived in great places, exciting playgrounds for children to explore, and that we did. Mitchelton Winery seemed like a town of its own, and Nan was its mayor. Us kids would sometimes duck out for an unofficial wander, finding the elevator to the observation deck and restaurant, having our way with its buttons, going up and down, appearing in the restaurant and no doubt annoying the staff there. It was a pretty exciting time as elevator rides in Albury were scarce, but in Nanstown we had one at our own disposal. I cannot remember Nan ever getting upset or angry with us. Maybe that's just a Nan thing. One time at Nanstown, I mentioned the winery, we encouraged a German Shepherd skipper to join us in the bird aviary. Skipper had his way with some of the guinea fowl in there. We must have pushed Nan's buttons on that occasion, but I think we got away with it. After that, Nan managed a hotel in Seymour before retiring with Uncle Kev, and it became our next playground. I'd grown up a little and the shenanigans stopped as far as I'm aware, but still more memories were made, forever memories. The motel was huge. Brekkies were great. We got to choose whatever cereal we wanted from those single-serve variety boxes that we used as finger puppets after eating. We were even treated to icicles and ice creams even before dinner. Once in between visits to Nan and her motel, the cast of The Man from Snowy River were guests of the Wattle Inn, and my Nan was to entertain them. Whilst they rested there during filming, Nan organised autograph books for myself, Kylie and Donovan. Some of Australia's greatest actors left small notes of endearment along with their signatures. Sigurd Thornton, Tom Burlinson, and no doubt other greats of the big screen. I think Nan liked rubbing shoulders with the stars. She told me in more recent times that she had hosted Sonny and Cher at the Hotel Continental in Melbourne during one of the Australian tours. When Nan and Uncle Ken retired, it was on their dream yacht, which they named Wangina. tacking up and down the coast, she would send me postcards from all over the towns, from all the towns that she birthed in. I was already collecting postcards as a hobby, but Nan kept them coming in. I boxed them, categorised them by brand or theme in an exercise book, whether they were Steve Parrish's New Colour View. All through the 80s, the postcards would arrive until it was time for me to join the army and commence my own journey. Little did I know at the time that Nan's postcards would turn out to be like a photographic roadmap as I explored my new surrounds. Before I was even based in Townsville, I already had some knowledge of Townsville's iconic Castle Hill. Weekend trips with my soldier mates, trips to Airlie Beach, Mackay, Cairns, Scarborough, Port Douglas. Towns that I visited for the first time were already somewhat familiar to me thanks to Nan's postcards in the world at any given time. I can remember one time visiting my sister's house in Townsville where she to the wine rack unopened. A more recent and cherished memory to duck up there and we had lunch at Sizzlers. A photo was taken, which I shared to social media. A former classmate made a comment saying, "Oh wow, 4 generations in one picture, how rare, how true." There are a great many memories that my Nan has gifted to me. One in particular is her voice. Whenever talking with Nan, whether it was in person or on the phone, Nan had her own mannerism. One in particular was what I mean. Back to that autograph book that Nan gifted me. Nan also penned her own term of endearment, a small poem by Adam Lindsay Gordon, and it reads, "Life is mostly froth and bubble, 2 things stand like stone." In another, rest in peace.
I'm not going to announce you need to go. Adjust the microphone, isn't it?
I'm Mex and I've known Erin for quite some time. Donnie has entrusted me to share with you his memories of Erin, his Nan, so I hope I do it justice for you, Donnie. Erin Ryan. Nan was a trailblazing woman with an infectious personality who made everyone that met her better for knowing her. I was always very proud and cognizant that Erin was one of the first women who served her country when she proudly served in the Women's Auxiliary Australian Air Force during World War II as an aircraft fitter, helping as Australia faced the threat of Japanese invasion in the north. The formation of the WAF set a precedent for the formation of other women's service organisations such as the Australian Women's Army Service and the Women's Royal Australian Naval Service. And it was women like Erin, trailblazed to Albury. Erin welcomed her into the family and her home without hesitation. My wife enjoyed spending time with Erin, and when I was away, it was great comfort to me to know that Cheryl found company with both my mum and Erin. Her sparkling smile and gracious personality will be missed. I will always have a wonderful, cherished memories of Nan, from my childhood years, seeing Nan every school holidays, spending time rebuilding her yacht when I was a teenager, to the time I saw her in later years with Cheryl. She leaves us today at age 9, a glass of wine together. She was the best grandmother a boy could ever ask for, and I miss her terribly, and I'll never forget her kindness and bubbly personality, and most of all, her beautiful smile. Goodbye, Nan, with love.
Now, Donovan mentioned his Nan's David Lewin at Bairnsdale RSL to come and share with us the RSL service. Thank you, David. Can I just say that it's an absolute privilege to be part of today's service as we pay our farewell tributes to Erin, not only for her service to her family, which we've heard about in the eulogy, but also to the community, but also importantly to her service to the nation in time of war and the effect she's actually had
Defence Force service. As we've already heard, Erin enlisted in the Women's Auxiliary Australian Air Force in April 1942 and served until discharged in July 1945. And as also we've heard, during this service, Erin was employed as a flight rigger and spent most of her career, or military career, at the General Reconnaissance School here in Bairnsdale. A service well done. And as we always do on these occasions, I now take the blood red poppy, the traditional symbol of sacrifice and remembrance, and we will place it in abiding memory of Erin. I respectfully invite any member of the family present who wish to place a portrait to do so. I now respectfully request that those who are able to stand and join me in a moment of silent tribute. And for those that are viewing from afar, you may also wish to stand at this time and pay a silent tribute to Erin and to her service to family, community and country. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn, but the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them.
We will. Yeah.
Lest we forget.
Thank you, David. Beautifully done as ever. Thank you.
I've got a little story that I read that gave me. I think it's a fact that she was the only woman amongst 100 blokes, and the blokes, well, not coerced, they encouraged Erin to work in the brake department, and there's mostly because the blokes didn't want to get their hands dirty. But there's a mention too that Erin has said that I love just the way her blasé thing. Brakes, planes don't need brakes in the air. but on the ground they become jolly important, or something like an observation like that. It was just amazing. Now look, now to a perfect song, a Rod Stewart song. It's got to be Sailing, of course. If you'd like to, Kelly's got some rosemary for remembrance. Come forward to Erin and just say your own quiet goodbye in a less formal manner. Thank you, Kelly. Perfect song. And in saying farewell service, and it's only about 6 sentences long. It's one of her poems. Why am I here? I sometimes wonder to the towering sea, the crash of thunder, the raging wind and the blinding rain, then suddenly all's calm again. White sails shine in the gleam of the sun. The spinnaker billows on a downhill run. Dolphins dance to the seagull's cry. Blue of the sea meets blue of the sky. That's why I'm here. That's why. We are so pleased that you've been here, Erin. You've lived your life to the fullest. You've grasped all that life has had to give. We wish you peace. We wish you calm seas. I think, Gareth, you said something like that too. a full sail, gentle breezes and calm seas. If you feel that you'd like to, ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in the words of the Lord. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And let us now commit Erin's body that we leave behind warm, enduring memories to mark our years and to sustain those left behind. For those of you who liked Erin, may memories be your comfort. For those of you who loved her, may you hold a sacred place in your hearts and a knowing smile on your lips. Erin, in her own words, said, yes, you could say, I've had an interesting life. Thank you to everybody who is out there on our streaming service. I hope you have felt part of our tribute to Erin today. Denise, you chose it beautifully. Until it's...
You're not a dream, a man, take my hand. We'll make a space in the life that we planned. And it will stay until it's time for you to go. Yes, we're different worlds apart, we're not the same. We laughed and played at the start, like in a game. You could have stayed outside my heart, but then you came. You'll stay until it's time for you to go. Don't ask why. Don't ask how. Don't ask forever. This love of mine had no beginning and has no end. I was an oak, now I'm a willow, now I can bend. And though I'll never in my life see you again, still I'll stay till it's time for you to go. Don't ask why, not me. Don't ask how of me. Don't ask forever. Love me. You're not a dream. You're not an angel. You're a woman. And you will stay until it's time for you to go. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case. which I'm certain I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I climbed each charted course, each careful step along the byway. More, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. Oh no, not me. I did it my way. For God is a man. What has he got? If not himself, then he has got to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. It was my